perk up. Perk up. If you're here, you're at least reasonably concerned with, well, honestly, with training in general. You know, nobody who's really slacking tunes into the leg days. That's something I have, that's one pattern that I've seen across the videos this whole time, ever since the beginning. Everybody loves chest, everybody loves arms. Back also gets a good amount of love. Legs, not so much. And I think it's a very accurate reflection of reality. Just how it is. There's no turning it around. The best you can do as an individual is go crazy on your legs and hope you can somehow rub that off on others. But no, one thing I was just kind of going over is with the working out, and really with anything where it's something that you're doing for yourself because you want to do it. It's a very different motivation. It's a very different drive. And what I'm trying to get into is the fact that it's like a lot of life is a to-do list, right? I mean, let's be real. Oh shit, gotta mow the lawn. All right, gotta do this. Gotta wake up on time. Gotta do my day schedule. And a lot of the times, those things are, I mean, there's no stakes. It's just something you gotta do. You do it. The hard part isn't doing it. The hard part is just doing it, if you get what I'm saying, right? It's like you're sitting, you know, if you're sitting in front of a dirty-ass kitchen, you're not thinking to yourself, holy crap, this is gonna be the hardest shit ever. It's just, okay, I don't really want to do that right now. That's it. That's the primary difficulty of first world life at this point. It's like, I don't really want to do that, but I guess I have to. All right, let's do it. And that kind of extends into most of everything, you know? I mean, nobody was in high school really freaking out, at least not too bad, about like, oh crap, you know, I gotta seriously lock it in. Like I'm just, it's just, yeah, okay, I gotta do this. You know, that's at least for the majority. You know, I'm not talking, maybe you were a 36 ACT kind of guy, like one of my buddies, Aaron, was. But if that wasn't you, then for the most part, you're like, you gotta do what you gotta do. But with the working out, and really with anything that is like, that you want to be your thing, you know, like if somebody asked you what you wish you could be doing, that's something where you're not going about it as though it's a chore. You're not going about it as though it's a to-do. You're going about it as though it's something you want to do and you want to get better at it, right? So given that motivation is different and the overall goal system is different, because with any kind of like, you know, chore or task, the goal is simply to complete it to whatever necessary level of satisfaction is required, and then you're good, right? Like, okay, it's done, now I can go back to just regular relaxing. And apart from like a little bit of a dopamine release that we all get from just finishing anything, like there's kind of a little bit of a reward every time you just do something and you finish it, you're like, okay, finally I'm done, you know. But with a regular shit like that, it's not very intense. But with the working out, or with any kind of thing that you want to get into, be it like fucking, I don't know, the only other things that end up popping in my mind are like painting or sculpture or some kind of just any kind of thing that's like you love doing. That's your fucking thing, you know. Your thing is just whatever. With stuff like that, the problem that you're trying to solve is usually just trying to reach a new level of progress with whatever that thing is, you know. So it's not about simply showing up, doing it, and then leaving. It's not about just clocking hours or, you know, just anything of that sort of simple-mindedness. It's just about going fucking crazy, or freaking crazy. So, you know, it's nobody's gonna get serious gains. Now, this could relate to anything, you know, gains in whatever skill you're looking into, but in the working out at least, nobody is gonna really get super far if their workouts are just tasks. You know, if you're like, okay, I got a couple sets to do, and no, because the thought process of even thinking about it like that is setting you up to fail. Because if you have a task and you think to yourself, okay, I'm coming to the gym to do 8 sets of chest, 3 sets of bench, 3 sets of dumbbell, 2 sets of flies, and 1 set of pec deck or something. That's how you're looking at it. You're looking at it as though it's just something to be finished, something to just get out of the way and be done with. And then you get to leave and say, okay, finally I finished that. Ugh. Not everyone is like that, of course, but the thought process of going about it like that, not what I like. So what I end up really trying to think isn't such that I'm aiming for specific like numbers of sets and like, okay, I did it. It's finally, that's not the point. Like, I'm coming here for legs today, and I'm not thinking, okay, by the time I've done 8 sets of quads, that will be enough, and then I can finally leave and be done with it. No, that's not the point. I want to show up, load whatever pressing movements I end up, jumping on, be it the new leg press or the pendulum or the hack or whatever. And my goal is not just to do a set, rest, and repeat. It's to make each individual set as though it was my last one and go about it as crazily as possible. And I don't always do that because it's, if you're setting a badass like level that you want to reach, then the point is kind of trying to achieve it. If every set I could just instantly hit perfect muscular failure, like legitimately, with no effort, and it was just like totally seamless for me, then shit, man, I would be the enlightened lifter at that point. If I could just actually sit there totally straight-faced and somehow someone could attach like electrodes to my biceps and they could read intensity scales off the fucking charts about how hard I was going, but it just was like nothing to me. Not there yet. You gotta actually fucking dig deep. If you're if you're sitting behind a leg press, if you're looking at a barbell, if you're looking at a Smith with more weight than you really feel like it's gonna be just a walk in the park, I don't think you're gonna perform if you show up to that and you're like, okay, yeah, let's just hit another one. Let's just write one more set down. That'll be it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Not only in my mind, but I've never seen it like that. And the sets where people walk into it, the sets where people show up and they go, all right, let's do another one now. Like, sometimes they're even complaining right then. They're like, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, come on. The performance speaks for itself. I just don't see it. So that's where I like to kind of leverage the motivational side of things with the music, with the hype, with everything else. And that's what gets me fucking going. So I can really just, I'm kind of chasing a feeling I used to get, because now I'm kind of exposed to heavy weight, right? When I first started squatting like 400 or 500 pounds, sometimes, usually in the 400s, like upper 400s, because that was like 5 plates almost. But at first, even like sitting and looking at that, it would get my heart racing before I even had any kind of hype music playing. And I was so nervous about it that I'd be thinking about legs like 2 days before, because I was like, oh crap, I gotta squat. Not I gotta squat, it's like, all right, I'm squatting in 2 days. And it would like freaking make me nervous. And I want that feeling again. So I need that's where it's on me to really just make sure I can bring it to the point where it almost like scares me on a cellular level just how nuts these sets are going to be, so that I actually am kind of like forced to respect it. If somebody told you to or if somebody told a guy who had no idea what fire was or what heat was to put his hand onto a red hot stove, just leave it there for a second, he'd say, what? Well, okay, sure. He's got no idea what he's getting into, right? Take that same guy a few days later, once he's healed, tell him to do it again, or say you're going to force him to do it again, right? That's what I want. That's the feeling I want to have. So that's kind of what I want to bring my quad training to as this bulk progresses. Because when I'm dieting down, that's a little different, right? When you're trying to just maintain the muscle you've already built, you don't need that much intensity. And I'm not saying you don't need intensity, but the level of training that I'm doing on an off season, weight, just overall fatigue, stimulus, it doesn't need to be at that level when I'm eating like almost 2,000 calories. You know, that's more so just maintaining my size, holding on to my strength. There's no need to overdo it like that. But to push into new grounds, develop new size, you know, break out some new freaking myofibrillar fibers and new nuclei and whatever else, if you want to be all specific, then you got to train in a way you haven't trained before. And if you're catching yourself on repeat, the same style, the same intensity, the same execution, just the same like mental state every lift, for something like legs especially, I don't think you're going to see much leg progression at all. You know, and I'm not speaking as though I'm like Tom Platz with legs. I'm saying this to me also. Like, I want to bring up my legs. I want to bring up my leg training. You know, even after I'm coming up on, yeah, right now is just about 7 years of working out. And I think there is well, not even I think, there is a lot of room to improve. And by improve, I do not mean like just lift a little smarter and things like that. I mean just on like a mental level, be able to bring it. So that's something I always want to get better at, because it would just make sense. If somebody's been doing something for 7 years, for 10 years, for 30 years, like some of these older guys who I get to talk to at all these expos and things, they didn't get to where they're at because year after year after year, they were the exact same dude. They're making progress, right? And if you're digging to bedrock, that first wood pick that you make, it's not gonna cut it. It's not gonna fucking cut it once you start getting down. And I think that's a decent analogy for, I mean, really getting good at anything. The longer you do it and the better you get at it, the harder it is to progress. So you as a person have to kind of level up in the same way, right? You can get from level 1 to level 2 like that. Getting from level 50 to level 51 could be hundreds of times more strenuous than that first little jump at the beginning. You know, so that's just kind of what sort of headspace I want to get into today. This set as though it's the finisher. Of course, if I feel like I need a little more volume, then that's what I'll do. But I'm going to do a two-phaser. When I was a little, doesn't sound right for me to say that now, but a while ago, you know, back year, probably 2-ish into lifting, I went through a phase, a drop set phase, where in my mind, if I could curl the 50s for 10, and that's failure, or whatever weight, then sure, that was, you know, whatever, I hit failure. But I could grab the 30s and do a few more. I could grab the 20s and do a few more. And in my mind, that's how I would make every set good, right? I would do as, you know, failure-ish, or approximate failure as close as I could with heavyweight, and then finish with more lightweight reps because I still have a little more in the tank. I think I've come to think now that I don't have to do that for every set. You know, I'd say a good ratio is probably 75% straight sets, be it heavy, light squeezing, whatever. Just pick a weight, wreck it, and then you're good. And then, you know, that extra 25%, add some intensifiers, drop sets, supersets, have a guy spot you with some assisted reps, things like that. You know, I don't think you have to make every set, you know, utilizing some kind of extra intensifier, because you're kind of just overcomplicating it. I feel it's like it's almost unnecessary. You know, you can do all sorts of fancy pants shit to, you know, take a right turn, but, you know, just pick a good line and you're good, right? It's kind of a situation where it just highlights the guys who want it, you know, and it's not about wanting, right? Frankly, that could be whatever. It's about doing, you know, because some guy could want, I mean, I see it all over the place. I mean, I see, I've been seeing a lot more kind of up-and-comer posts, more than I probably have in the last few. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Did I forget the pre? Oh. Okay, well now I gotta do a 180. But what damn. Oh, well, you know what I was trying to get at there is what the hell was I even about to say? I knew when I was walking out, my hands were freaking feeling empty. fitness. Oh yeah, so I've been seeing a lot more posts where it's like, you know, a guy's just working somewhere like a Foot Locker, and he's like, these guys don't know they just got handed a pair of Adidas from a future Olympian. You know, these guys don't know that they're talking to the next Arnold Classic competitor or Arnold Classic champ. You know, I mean, I've seen a lot. You know, as much as or for as long as I've been posting stuff, I've been watching, you know, TikToks and fitness stuff for probably twice as long. You know, and we've all seen it. It's like, dude, I'm gonna be this, and the other, and I don't think the guy's like lying to himself either. Like, shit, man, I'm gonna do it. I'm saying I'm gonna do it. Let's make it happen. But it's always a situation of time will tell. You know, so that's where that wanting, you can come and go. You know, somebody can listen to, I mean, basically everybody anywhere back when they were watching, you know, if you were, you know, way back and older, like if you get to see a Queen concert or anything like that, in that moment, that is a freaking rock star with thousands of people crowding around him, screaming at him. It's like, that's what I want to do. I want to learn how to play guitar. I'm going to be the next whatever, you know, and that feeling is going to fade, right? Because it's not it hasn't been put in action yet. It hasn't been tested, you know. So that's one point of pride for anybody who says they're going to do something and then actually sticks with it and makes it happen, because they're able to just take it from this kind of, you know, bubbling energy of a thought of something that you like to do into physical reality and action, you know. And the trickiest part about that is the fact that, you know, you're going to want it almost the most in the beginning because it seems so far-fetched, and it's just like, that would be incredible. You know, you don't know any of the drawbacks and like the actual, you know, tricky hard parts of actually making whatever that thing can happen. You're just thinking, let's do it, let's get after it, you know, as though it's just only a hop skip away from, you know, being wherever you want to be. And then the more you learn about it and practice it or whatever, it's like, oh shit, all right. Now I'm starting to see what this is really gonna look like if I actually go down. Oh, cardio? These weights are hard on my hands. Does it have to be that sharp? Boom. Out the window. Workout member or gym membership canceled. Potential dreams. I'm not even talking like bodybuilding, fitness accolades. I'm just saying like just being in solid shape. Gone. Into the ethos, left for someone else to kind of, you know, bring together and make happen for themselves. But what I'm getting at is, you know, anybody who does it, you can't take it away from them. You know, they made that shit happen, or whatever it is. And I'm not talking about like being a total beast, like all the Open Olympia guys or, you know, anybody else who basically everyone knows by name. You know, I'm talking about the guys who lose 100 pounds in a year. I'm talking about the guys who get back into like, you know, a 35 waist from, you know, God knows where, right? Those actual just real changes, they're drastic. You know? So if you can get a semblance of some kind of progress like that, I can probably guarantee 99.9% of the times you're gonna say, oh yeah, wish I started doing that sooner. Right. You're never gonna regret something you really went after, because at least you went after it. You know? If you never try, that's the things that people look back on and they say, oh, nothing I can do now. Like, the time is absolutely gone. There's no turning it back. You know, we've all kind of thought about it. It's like, well, if time travel was real, then when people have come back to tell us, yeah, no, none of that, right? So take advantage of the fact that you're alive right now. You could potentially just copy what I'm doing, grab some pre-workout, go to the gym, smash legs, and then hobble into the car, play on your phone for a minute, and then come home and repeat the process. So that's the plan for me. Honestly, leaner is more impressive than bigger, I would say. Obviously, you have to be a certain size and then get lean so that the impressiveness of being lean is there, right? Because obviously if somebody's just huge, but, you know, they got a good amount of, you know, softness on them, obviously you can still be a beast, you know, kind of strongman aesthetics. But if you're a 160 pounder and then, you know, you get diced to like 150, I think you're missing out a little bit, you know. So obviously, different strokes for different folks. Some guys like to be a bit, you know, leaner on the more just lighter side of things, especially any kind of distance runners. I mean, shit, man, it's a totally different vector, but there's no chance I could catch up with I mean, hell, I can catch up with just a regular dude running. I mean, I could be outran pretty easily, right? But it's like I'm putting all my stats into different areas, right? The size, strength, kind of leanness. Well, not leanness right now, but I guess the size and kind of strength side of things. Cardio, of course, does get an amount of points allocated to it, but, you know, enough for like a baseline. It's like give yourself 3 points of defense and then 5 of offense, just to make sure you can really throw the hammer down, you know. But that, and then, you know, obviously some guys just like being fucking huge. I mean, I've seen just with the social media, you really get a glimpse. There's this one big ass dude. He's overhead pressing like 500 pounds, like not a perfectly strict overhead press, but I mean the moving 500 pounds overhead like that in any capacity, absolutely insane, right? But of course, you know, he's not going to give a shit about having abs because that's not the thing that he values, you know. So try not to overlap what everyone kind of considers the thing to do with what you want to do, you know, because I mean, if everybody's getting lean for summer and you know, you're thinking you want to put some size on, dude, the sooner you get it out of the way, the better. Because I see that a lot. I mean, I was just talking to a guy after yesterday's workout. You know, we've been going to the same gym for a while. We've never talked. And, you know, he's like, yeah, it's a fear. Not like a, you know, serious fear, but a minor just like, oh, I don't want to get soft, man. Right? Because if you're lean, if you're like an aesthetic lean upper 100-pounder, that's a good look. Frankly, you're getting close to where you just want to stay at indefinitely, you know. But if you want to push the envelope just a touch, maybe do an off season, you know, maybe 6 months of a bit extra calories, get a little softer, and then diet back down. You know, people don't. You're not going to think about that as though it's okay. All right. You're never thinking gains first. You're thinking okay, I'm going to be soft first. Right, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get fat first. That's kind of our constant thought process. You know, it's more so, oh, what's it going to cost now versus what do you get later? You know, we're going back to the freaking mentality of when did credit really come on the scene? Was that like a 60s thing? I guess before any kind of economic blowback that we've seen, at least stateside, right? We're just not wired to think that way, you know. It's okay, what's the fun part now that I can deal with later? What's fun I can do this second and save anything difficult for later? I don't want to do it, right? That's a very easy approach. I mean, it's so fun. You get what you want and you don't have to pay for it right now. Nice, right? That's classic. And the interest you pay with working out, you know, to anybody that isn't into it, obviously we don't think of working out as work because we like it. You know, it's not a chore, it's an activity. Plus, it's a freaking social hour, because if you go to the same gym enough, or you go to different gyms enough, you start to meet everybody and you get to have fun. You know, because you're not there for work, and it's not like just your regular family who you see all the time. It's kind of a nice parallel play activity. Everybody's got the same goal, and you all get to work on it together, right? It's just a nice kind of camaraderie that gets built up. Crap, what the hell was I even just saying? Working out. Yeah, but so for us, we don't think of working out like a chore. But for anyone who does, which once you start working out, that switch will flip, and then you're going to start to like it. You know, kind of, it's a little cultish. It's like, oh, look, man, you know, it seems bad at first, but once you get into it, you're really going to love it, and you're never going to want to stop. You know, I mean, it may as well make you sign something in blood. It's like, I'm going to get a pump, and then you sign your signature, right? But I'm serious. I do think it's, you start to like it. So if you know anybody who's like, they're going to start to like it, don't worry. But if that's their logic, you know, if somebody's like, I don't want to deal with that, then that's all they're thinking about. They're just thinking about like, oh man, because they would want to be reasonably in shape, you know, maybe jacked even if you got that kind of itch, like you really want to put some muscle on your frame, right? I've said it a million times, if you gave anybody a freaking, you know, golden shaker bottle, they give it a rub, and then a genie of Ronnie Coleman pops out, and he asks if you want to be, you know, whatever, leaner, slightly bigger, whatever you just want to see change-wise to your body. Dude, everybody would say, yes, please, Ronnie, go for it. Make me jacked instantly. Boom. You know, everyone. Every single person in the world, and if they say they wouldn't, they're lying. You know, or they're trying to put up some kind of ruse or something. Oh, it's instantly jacked? Yeah, I'll pass. Instantly lose 100 pounds and get my, you know, college build back again? Nah. Yeah, said no one ever. Right? So if that's the case, then, right, everybody's got at least a baseline desire for, I don't want to say like peak physical performance. That's not what I'm saying. But just working out in general and just being more active than you are now. And I'm not talking about you, but like for anybody, I mean, it's only positives. The only negative is it's a little hard, right? It's a time allocation, so it's not like nothing, but it's such a small price to pay, you know. And then before you know it, you're going to start to like doing it, you know. So that's all I can say there, right? If you can get anybody interested in the gym who isn't already, dude, you're certainly doing some good work. That's all I can say there. I was just chatting with my new boy Zach. Dude's been lifting here for, you know, fucking years. We just never chatted before, which is, you know, kind of tricky. I don't know if it's different for the girls out there, but you know, at least for guys, when you come up to the gym, you know, you're serious. You kind of, you don't want to bother somebody. They're locking in. You don't want to kind of mess with them or anything. It's like, and then you also want to be locked in too. So sometimes there's this barrier to chatting with someone who you never talked to before, just because, you know, we're putting on this front of like, you know, our intensity and everything. But you know, I'm in their new gym. Everybody's decently big, and I'm still kind of small at the time. I mean, I'm like barely 210, maybe 220, something like that. But still a scrapper. And yeah, you know, everybody's kind of mean mugging a little bit. You know, they're like, because it's kind of it's definitely an interesting situation where, you know, when you come into a gym and it's like, you know, it's not like a YMCA, it's like these guys are really working out. If you've got a little bit of a presence, you know, and I'm not saying a Phil Heath, Jay Cutler mass. I'm saying like, even if you're a lean 190, dude, that's up there, right? Don't take the fact that I'm trying to be fucking massive as though I consider that the bar. Like, that's just what I want to do, right? But like, just being, I mean, even when I look back at myself at like a decently lean 185, dude, it's freaking sweet, right? Honestly, I think I'm in a reasonably good headspace to the point where eventually, when I peel back down size-wise to a more just, you know, regular kind of longevity-based lean weight, dude, I'm still going to be enjoying my pumps just as much, right? But you know, but what I'm trying to get at is, you know, eventually, you know, halfway through a workout, throwing some shit around, just being all serious, you know, no smiling, right? If you walk into a new gym as a dude, you're not looking around at everybody going, hi, I'm Sam. Can I work in? You know, not so much. But I don't know. We must have like just done like a set of rope or something, or asked them to work in, and then just that little, just something. It's like, oh shit, all right, that's my boy now. Very nice. Which is something you don't get a lot, right? Usually, there's not a lot of situations where just you can't really just start, you know, talking about shit. That's the sweet spot, or that's one of the benefits of the gym, I feel, because everybody's there for the same reason, and you know, something about it, there's kind of just a kind of, you could say, camaraderie that comes with everybody doing the same thing, and the fact that it's like a self-imposed challenge, right? Because I mean, that is what a good workout should be. even like I'm not even saying a crazy Tom Platz leg day. I'm just saying like a regular workout. You should be challenging yourself to some degree. So if everybody's kind of in that same headspace, dude, I'll tell you this: do not take your gym, you know, and all the other patrons who are there alongside you for granted. You know, that's the fun part. Like when I look back at like when I was at my school's rec center, or just, you know, anytime I go to a specific gym on like a trip, and I'm there for like a few weeks, dude, that's the part I remember. Like of course I remember the lifts, or like I remember the time I tried squatting 6 plates I wanted 8, you know, I only got like 2. But like, you know, I remember lifts like that sometimes. But more so, it's the people that you get to lift with, right? So I mean, you know, keep your intensity, but no need to mean mug everybody. Not to mention the fact that, you know, not only is it just more fun showing up to the same place and kind of, you know, not only greeting but getting greetings back, it's it's just more hype, man. And you never know what kind of tips these guys might have. You know, you are one, hey bro, can I work in, from hearing the greatest superset you've ever heard in your life, or some other random piece of advice that you might not or just some kind of fucking joke. You know, you never know. So that's definitely the fun part. I think that there's this unfortunate correlation that we're kind of making with the working out, because of course with any endeavor self-improvement related, it's very easy to motivate that idea by thinking, okay, I'm not where I want to, I'm not where I want to be yet, but by thinking, fuck, I'm not enough right now. God, I'm not thinking, okay, I want to get bigger, but thinking, oh man, I'm so small, or, you know, just whatever like that, which I really don't resonate with. It doesn't, I mean, I guess sometimes, you know, if I'm going through something, but for the most part, I mean, I want the gym to flow seamlessly with my life, right? Now, they definitely are a bit entangled by this point, but I don't want it to be work. Like, I don't want coming to the gym to lift to be something that, you know, I'm like, I don't want it to feel like a to-do list, right? The gym shouldn't be a to-do. The gym should be a I get to do, right? Like a fun part. If you miss a workout because you're traveling or whatever, you shouldn't feel like this anxiety of, crap, I missed a lift, fuck. You know, that's not really what I'm thinking now. I definitely used to think that before. That was like my instant reaction. It's like, oh God. Whereas I think it's just a better thought process to, you know, really just highlight, like, damn man, I wanted to work out today, right? Not highlight this, you know, weird self-imposed insatiable need, but more so just highlight like your, you know, just satisfactory desire that you want to lift, right? And keep it light. Now, that's not exactly true. You know, I want you to go nuts if you've got a crazy set of bench or a crazy set of squats, or, you know, any kind of superset or whatever in between. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, hey man, keep it light and chill if you're about to try to do a set of barbell back squats to absolute complete muscular failure. That's not what I mean, right? For that, you need to get serious. But in between, dude, it's just fun, man. You know, so that's what I like to highlight. You know, it should be something which you build momentum up with, right? And once you build momentum, dude, you get to ride that momentum. You know, it shouldn't feel like you're just trudging through snow like Dorian Yates on his way to the dungeon every lift, you know, because slow, or no, what am I thinking? What's the word? Crap. It's like slow is smooth and smooth is fast, but I'm really just trying to highlight the smooth is fast part, you know, because who's going to lift for longer? The guy who's like, I gotta be Mr. Olympia this year. Mr. Olympia or bust. I'm not dogging anybody if you've got the mentality, but, you know, him versus the dude who's like, fuck man, I just love lifting. You know, I want to pump some iron, see how far I can push myself, and enjoy the process of doing so. Dude, that guy's gonna go way further. You know, not to quote myself quoting whoever I heard it from, with the guy who likes walking, you know, kind of situation. But I really think that's it, you know, because it's as much as it's an outlet for, you know, whatever you might have going on. Like, I do feel that working out should, at least at the forefront of its value, be something fun, right? That's the fun part. That's something I'm looking forward to. And if that ever changes, oof, pinch me, because I must be dreaming. You know, don't get me wrong. I'd say I'm probably on the further end of the spectrum when it comes to, you know, enjoyment of working out. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. You know, I've never, or at least I don't think that I have the thought process of like, okay, I need to work out because I need to stay big, because if I'm not big, then it's like, that's not exactly what I'm thinking. You know, it's more so, I freaking definitely like being big, and I like lifting weights as well, so everything just kind of goes hand in hand. But there are still days where I'm like, shit, man, I'm just kind of tired, coming off of a big ass trip, diet kind of scrappy. You know, and that's a situation I put myself in, so it's not an excuse. And it's like, you know, not awesome, perfectly ideal circumstances. You know, I almost feel like I gotta kind of keep building up my momentum again, especially with some of the leg training. Those last 2 weeks was like, oof. I mean, really, there's just one crazy set of Smith squats, and that was all, right? That is not good. I think I went a little too far doing one quad day a week. I'm gonna bring it back to regular full leg days twice a week. Maybe make one a little lighter quad-wise, but still pumping them up. You know, because you give an inch, you give a mile. You know, give an inch, take a mile. So it's a little bit of a situation like that. It might be making me want to slow down on quads. But that is all I gotta say there. So all that, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is like, you know, just, you know, if everything's not absolutely perfect, whatever, right? Whatever, you still gotta wake up. You know, you're still alive. The game ain't over, right? So what do you want to do? Would you rather be the guy who has to look back and think, yeah, every time I didn't feel like it, I just stayed home? Or be able to look back and think, yeah, shit, man, sometimes it feels a little harder than normal. Do it anyway, you know? I'm not trying to say get under a few 100 pounds on a squat. If you can tell you're overly fatigued from the last workout, that's a different story. But if you just feel a little, you know, you don't want to, maybe you're sitting down on the couch, you're laying down in bed, you're playing on your phone, you're in a very comfortable state, we've all been there, and you're not really getting that itch to just jump out of bed and, you know, take your pre and roll, right? That's where you kind of have to create that urgency consciously. Right? You never have to tell somebody to wake up early to go on vacation. They're probably going to wake up before their alarm because they're so excited to do it, you know? But if that feeling isn't there, and that just, you know, urge and excitement isn't coupled with your vibe that day, create it. You know, what the hell do you think your whole body is? It's in your complete freaking control. You know, don't forget, you're not you in the sense that you're your hands and you're your legs and you're everything else. No, you're this little blob of brain on the inside controlling this whole thing, you know. And if you can't take active control over it, then you're just going to be kind of breezed around with whatever outside factors are at play, and before you know it, you didn't do anything you really wanted to do. You just kind of freaking went with the flow. You know, there is a good portion of value of that. You know, don't get too locked into something in every capacity, and you know, be able to be open to change and whatever else. But with you know, the things that you really want to get after, you probably have you don't have that many. There's not a lot of things where you get to say, all right, I'm doing this because I want to do it purely for my own enjoyment and my future enjoyment from having done it, and I'm going to dedicate a pretty serious amount of time to it. You know, there's not a lot of things like that, right? As much as we're all into kind of, you know, hyper fixating on whatever else or random hobbies, and you know, usually there's only a few that end up really clicking with any one individual. And in the case of working out, if those two things align, for one, something you should be doing anyway, everybody should be able to lift a reasonable amount of weight, and you're really kind of into it and you actually get excited about it, it's a fun part of your day, dude, it's a goddamn perfect storm. You know, so that's my finisher shtick there. right? Even if you're feeling a little make it happen anyway. And then you get to feel a little better because you know so many other people in the world slacked and you didn't, right? It's like if you ever wake up extra early and do your cardio like pre-sunrise, I'm talking like 5:30, there's a little bit of an extra sense of accomplishment just because you know everybody else is freaking sleeping and you just got your 30 minutes in, right? So not an aspect of the lifting to be taken for granted. That's my take there. But I'm gonna thread the needle of this traffic. I'm gonna left turn, go home, eat something, and shit. I say this a lot. The time will pass anyway, right? So if you can get into it, and frankly, I think the gym is just an objectively enjoyable thing to do, and by that I just mean coming and doing a workout of any variety. Once you get used to it, just because we're kind of wired to be active. We're not freaking, well, I can't think of any living organism that isn't wired to be active on a regular basis. Unless you want to be like a damn sprout, like a goddamn beanstalk, where it's just sit out in the sun all day and suddenly you grow like nothing happened, right? That's not what we're talking about here. Even the smallest freaking single cell microbes way back in the primordial soup, they didn't have a choice, man, right? Eat or be eaten, grow or be fuel for someone else's growth. You gotta move. So that's I'm always in this weird sort of two like ideologies about the working out, because for one, it's just something everybody should be doing, but also if it's something that you want to be your thing, if the gym is going to be your kind of hobby, your thing that you want to work on and make progress with and enjoy the journey of going through, then you got to go nuts. And if you don't, you will regret it. I can guarantee that, because nobody, this isn't on anyone in particular, like I'm not blaming, but nobody stops working out, gets out of their routine and thinks, man, the best thing I ever did was stop going to the gym. Man, I was working out pretty hard for a couple years. Totally turned my life around by getting rid of my membership. That will never and has never happened. And the issue is it's kind of a weird give and take, because if you stop going to the gym and you stop working out, let's say you're on a pretty good routine. Let's say you're not really, you're not going crazy. You're not like a 7-day-a-week, cardio session and then lifter at the end. But, you got a good after work hour, push-pull legs rest going on. Like you're serious. And then you backslide. You get off the wagon. It's been a week. It's been 2 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. It's been 2 months. It's been 3 months. And it's, shit, it's like when someone texts you and you don't open it right away, and then you don't want to open it because now it's been so long, it's like, it feels awkward for you to open it and respond. And it's like, you just, you feel like there's this gap, this space between you and whatever this thing is, where you're like, it's already been so long, screw it. No, not good, right? And of course, that's not an easy thing to think in the moment, right? I'm not saying it's just like as simple as that, but if you know somebody like that where they're slowing down, you got to convince them, right? You got to pull a goddamn Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio level acting. This guy needs to go to the gym. You got to convince him. You got to make him think that this is the most valuable way he could spend an hour and a half in the afternoon every day, and get him back on track. Because the last thing you want to do is be the guy where you're like, yeah, I used to be into it. Not good. Not freaking good. And I think we're definitely in a weird state right now, because it's like, I think we're hitting I don't know what a good term would be, but I'd say we're about at the highlighted period of time, at least fitness-wise. It gets funky with all other kind of social media because everybody's like streaming or doing any kind of like prank channels are gone. That's more of like a 2010, 2016 kind of thing. But we're in a very saturated time. All right, everybody wants to be seen. So I think it's always a good idea to look at what everybody else is doing, at least in like an average kind of, style of perception and think, all right, if everybody's doing this, what can I do to change? What can I do to be a little bit different? What can I do to kind of separate myself such that I get some kind of different result? So, if everybody's posting shit, I mean, I've heard it. It really sucks to hear. And this is kind of why I was a bit of a kind of influencer hater back at the beginning when I was working out. Because I would hear stories where guys would roll up to the gym and I knew a guy whose brother was in LA for a while. And he was running around like the zoo culture and all sorts of other places or whatever. And he would tell me stories where these guys would come into the gym, full camera bag, and of course I do the same shit too, so I'm kind of in the same boat. But they come into the gym with no plan, and they're like, all right, what should we do today? Should we try to max out deadlift? Should we try to do like a challenge? Should we try to like outlift people? And I'm like, that's not the point. That is absolutely not the freaking point. But that's that's just me. I feel like I want to get the lift done first, right? The lift is number one priority, and then goofing off and kind of like joking around, that's up there because it's just fun. But it's not that shouldn't be the point. It's kind of like a work hard, play hard sort of situation. I could come to the gym, and if like a bunch of guys I know are in there, even if they show up later and I just finished my workout, I mean, shit, if the gym has like a vending machine or if it's got like a little snack bar or something, I'll just get some food and just keep hanging out there chatting. It's just kind of a little bit backwards, because usually I want to get my lift done first and then talk. So I kind of become the distractor post workout. But as long as every day you can tell, and by every day I just mean every training day, whatever your workout is like, that you got after it. If you can go to bed knowing you got after it, excited to get after it the next day, dude, I'm jealous, right? In the sense that I just know that is an awesome state to be in, right? My favorite periods of time, at least in relation to training, are when I can go to bed knowing like, all right, man, my chest is freaking pumped up still. It's been hours. And then knowing, all right, I got back tomorrow. It's going to be a good day. Right? And then you just, instead of rolling out of bed, you just kind of pop out of bed. You're like, all right, I'm alive. Let's make this shit happen. So that's all I got there. I feel like I've been rambling for a freaking while. It's nice and late, throwing off my sleep schedule just a little bit, but that's all right. I'll still wake up nice and early tomorrow. And then arms, wherever that ends up being. And I gotta pump these things freaking up. That is for freaking sure. So that's all I got for tonight's back day. I'll see you tomorrow. I think it's a little, you're kind of jumping the gun having a workout perfectly planned beforehand. Now, I'm not saying don't do this, of course. Having a good routine is obviously going to be solid for your consistency. But for me, at least, if I'm going to do legs and I get it in my mind, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and then I show up and like it's just not feeling right, like my knees off or my hips are, then I gotta switch to something else. So it's almost like I'd rather not put myself in the position of really having to flip my plan around. Because then you get something in your head, and then you have to change it. Now it's like, oh, my whole plan's gone to shit. No, I don't like that, right? I want to go into it open to whatever I kind of feel like will be good at the time. Now, of course, I've got basic frameworks of workouts. Like my arm days always look relatively similar, but I do try to make sure I change it up enough, right? I'm not trying to do a sneak attack jump scare to freaking shock the muscle of my triceps, but I don't want to do the same lift on repeat. Not only do I think that's going to be less effective, but that's just going to be boring. Guys who complain about the repetitiveness of the workouts, I think they're kind of inducing that problem on their own by just repeating the same workouts every week, right? No wonder you're tired of push-pull legs. You've been doing the same workout set for 6 months. It's not the split, man. Maybe just try something new. Just look up somebody's workout video. Everybody's posting them. Find something you think is kind of interesting, copy, and see what happens. But either way, let's just get in there, get warmed up, and jump on to set number 1. You push yourself, that's a good workout. Never gonna knock that. But getting a little more specific, if you go nuts for 8 sets on whatever, 8 sets for quads, 8 sets for back, 8 sets for hams, anything, and they're good sets, it's hard to go wrong. I wouldn't freak. The only thing stopping me from continuing to grow in this bulk, it's not the fact that I'm doing 8 sets instead of 6, or 6 sets instead of 9, or any combination like that. It's if I just can't eat enough food to facilitate having a little extra calories to gain muscle. So the training is a stimulus, and once you've given yourself that stimulus to a proper degree, of course, go hard, then it's your responsibility outside the gym to get some grub in your system, stay carved up, stay full and pumped, and just keep going. And then it's as simple as that. I feel like I'm getting a little repetitive here, because it's like, all right, train hard, eat a lot, do that very consistently, and then you're going to build some muscle. But I think the reason I keep wanting to freaking hammer that nail in is that's the secret, man. It's one of those, the secret is there's no secret kind of things. And anybody who's worked out for long enough is in the know. And anyone else is still working their way in, right? It's like that scene in that movie with Tom Cruise where they're like, what's the password? And the beginner lifter's going to say, push-pull legs. The beginner lifter's going to say, 3 reps in reserve. And then the guy's like, that's the password for admission, but what's the password for... I don't know what I haven't seen the movie, I've only seen clips. What's the password? What's the real password? And the guy's like, I don't know. And then the real password is just consistency, right? But it's getting warmer. So if you're regular lifter, not really doing any 1-rep maxes or anything, or insanely heavy sets, and out of the blue you decide, all right, I'm squatting 4 plates today. I don't care that I haven't squatted for 2 months. I'm going for it. Not good. Yeah, this is a while ago. This is maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I'm at Metro down in a little more of a kind of a grungy gym around where I'm from, and I was I don't remember what I was doing, and I think I hurt my wrist or something. I don't remember what happened, but basically these guys wanted me to spot him, and he was squatting 5 plates, and I'm not knocking the guy personally, but it was not an awesome idea. But there were safety bars at least, but he unracks it. We got a triple spot going on, 3 guys, one in the back, I'm on one of the sides. And let's say he had a good 8 inches of downward motion before the weight took control, smushed. Now the safeties were pretty low, but they were high enough that he was good. It was not going to happen. It was not going to happen. And he kind of hurt his knee a little bit. And then he tried to do it again. And I didn't want to say no, so I stay there again, and it just comes down. So that's where, as cool as it might seem, especially if you've done it before, easing, and in that easing, if every time, by next leg day in a couple days when I come back, I'm going to do 10 plates on that leg press. I'm going to do maybe up to 11. I'm going to move on and do another heavy press or something along those lines, because adding a small percentage of weight lift by lift by lift, it's not the fastest thing in the world. I'm not adding a plate every day, but it does add up over time. Like the heaviest I've ever squatted was when I was squatting very consistently, never tweaked anything, and it was just squat every leg day. So I could get to the point where it wasn't that I was making me bigger, but I was just exposing myself to so much weight that I could keep going up. And I think there's a limit. And it's probably based on a combination of factors like your skeletal size, your muscle insertions, how long you've been training, just your kind of baseline strength in a sense, because some guys are going to be the same size as someone else, but he's just, I've seen videos of, I don't know the guy's name, so it's this kind of just short, scrawny looking dude, kind of more sensational for just like clips, like not like he doesn't make like videos or anything, but the guy is 160 and he's benching 400 for like 5, and not like he's doing a rest pause, he's just moving it. Like honestly, strength per size ratio, absolutely insane. And he's been training in such a way that he's used to it. Right? But what I was about to say was, depending on your size, your limb length, obviously if you've got shorter arms, if your pecs are the same strength as mine, but you have better leverage because your arms are closer to your body, you can bench heavier weight. And it'll still feel heavy, but the tension that will get sort of transferred into your pecs will be the same, right? If someone's arm was half the length of mine, and they were the same strength, they could probably bench, at least on paper, double what I can bench, because the, range of motion and the leverages are just halved. It's not always like that, but there's a limit where, especially size gaining, you're not going to get bigger doing weights beyond a certain point for most of your working sets, I believe. I don't need to bench 500 pounds, nor can I bench 500 pounds to try to get bigger. It's just not going to happen, So if that's the case, then where does that line lie? For me, with dumbbell bench, I think the 150s are the answer. I don't think I'm ever going to be doing more than the 150s, just because it's going to be more weight without more reward. Now, I still want to go heavy, so that's why I still do the 150s versus anything else, or just whatever I'm capable of at that time. But it's not in a constant pursuit of more weight, just because that's not always the answer. So it's the same thing for legs, right? So if world-class squatters are doing X amount of weight, let's say they're in like the 100 kilo class, 90 kilo class, whatever, and they're squatting 200, 300 more pounds than I could do, is that the answer? No, because they're training for a more strength-specific reason. So what I'm getting at is, I want to go heavy, and I would recommend exposing yourself to at least, maybe, I don't know what percentage, but what feels like a lot of weight, obviously within reason, don't hurt yourself. But, not every set is like that. I think it's going to take a while for me to kind of get that sort of, what was the word? Reputation changed a little bit, because, not everybody is always going to tune into all these daily lift updates. Not that you should, there's so freaking many. But, the typical Sam logic, if you were to ask somebody, is like, oh, he's going way too heavy every set. It's just not the case, because there's for every heavy nasty one that I'm really pushing it and going crazy and trying to like dig friggin' deep, there's also a lighter squeezing one that's a little more intentional, like on the leg extensions or those single leg curls, or like cable flies and presses and things like that. And that's what I'm really standing for, not trying to pinpoint and like box yourself into any specific style of training, because then you're not going to feel comfortable branching out and trying new stuff. So I want to train hard in a lot of different ways, right? Heavy sets, crazy heavy leg press, Smith squats, but in contrast to those, also do like sissy squats after leg extensions, where I'm doing a body weight movement and just blowing up my quads. Even sometimes I'll finish with a superset where I might do flies to burn out, and then finish with like kind of squeezing push-ups against the dumbbells or a bench, where I'm at like a 45 degree, there's not much load at all, but I'm just getting a solid ass squeeze and kind of burn. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is intensity does not equate to weight, but sometimes it does. It's like how a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square, if you kind of catch my drift. But no matter what you end up doing, as long as you've got some kind of certain pursuit in mind, and it's clear enough that you can visualize it, use it as a motivating factor to keep going, even if something in your sort of day and your schedule and whatever is just a little off kilter, and maybe you're not in a perfectly prepared state for whatever you're doing, then that's the way to do it. Who wins in life? The unstoppable. Actually, let me rewind so I can say it. But I would say there's not often any immovable objects that you're going to run into. There isn't really anything that if you seriously went crazy at it, you could probably never get to some kind of level. If I dropped everything if I dropped everything that I was doing and I started trying to become a chess grandmaster, and that was my thing, and every day I'm practicing 8 hours of chess study, for one thing, that wouldn't be my thing because I'm not into it. But if I did that for long enough and I had the motivation to keep doing it because I liked it, I don't think I'd be able to, well, why limit yourself by saying that? But I would definitely get good at chess. I can guarantee it. If I practiced it long enough, I would eventually get pretty good at it. And it's the same thing with anything. You know, it's just it's a persistence game, right? The longer you do something, the more hours you clock, and what I mean by that is the more like active, intentional, focused hours that you clock, the better you're going to get at something. You know? And that could be anything you want. Now, you can't do everything. This is a quote I always like to hear. Every time I see like a TikTok or an Instagram that talks about this, I'll watch it just to hear what the guy's saying, even though it's repeated a lot. But I really love the idea you can do anything. You can't do everything, but you can do anything. So the whole point of that is, you know, you got a lot of options. But if you want to get extra good at something or reach a certain level at something, you got to kind of pinpoint your energy toward it. And if you do it for long enough, it's not a question of if. It's not a question of if I can do it, maybe I'll be able to make it. It's just a question of when. And if that's the case, then it's not a test of your motivation. It's not a test of your determination. It's a test of your patience. It's a test of just how long can you wait for what you want while you're taking small incremental steps toward it. You know, so that was my logic behind why I said that, or why I like that quote about the guy who loves walking will get further than the guy who likes the destination. Because if you pinpoint a specific destination, you're setting yourself up for failure mentally, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm there, I made it. Now everything will finally be perfect because I did this one thing. But life goes on, you know. So now where are you going to point your ship towards, you know? So it's more so about having a good trajectory headed towards wherever you want to go. It's not about reaching it. It's about the pursuit. So not to get any deeper than that. I feel like I've been chatting for a freaking while, and I got to make a couple pit stops before I go home. All right, I tell you this much. I think we're entering the slow season. I think we're entering the kind of chill, hang out, having fun season, which of course nothing wrong with that. But what I mean is, in a training context, winter, very motivational, right? Because you're up against the elements. You know, it's fucking cold, it's snowy, it's not as fun. Nobody's running around with their shirt off outside. It's just, you know, pure grindage, and that's all. You know, aka winter bulk, aka winter arc, aka you know, aka whatever. And that's it's a pretty motivational period, right? Because it's like, all right, end of the year's coming. You know, I can kind of, you almost feel as though you're approaching this deadline. You know, make sure you got some shit happening. You know, I think that's kind of what's sort of going on then. You know, and then it swings into New Year, because obviously New Year, new me, more like New Year jacked me. Let's go freaking lift some weights. I'm actually gonna do cardio this year. You know, how many people say that, and then flash forward 3 months and the story is always time, right? I mean, way freaking back. I mean, we've all seen the cave drawings of like the bulls and the mammoth and everything else. There's a reason that there's no cave drawings of, you know, cardio bikes or anything like that, and it's not because they weren't around. It's because they didn't get used. You know, you're only going to draw shit that seems cool at the time. If that's you, you know, kind of grug style, you're not going to draw the cardio bike, you know, because nobody was doing it. You know, we're supposed to evolve over time, and now cardio-wise, we may as well be in the Stone Ages, if not worse. Because at least, you know, back then you're really running around trying to catch some shit. You know, you could just roll up to the store and you know, get a pound of ground beef at your leisure, right? But what I'm trying to get at is, you know, for the most part, even, you know, regular year-round jobs, summertime's always still a little, it's summer, right? That never dies, because we all came up in school with, you know, May, June, July. That's summertime. It's time to chill, you know. And even though we all grow up and everything else, that doesn't disappear. It's always kind of instilled in our minds, right? And what do you do as soon as summer starts, aka school's out? Man, I am done, right? You're studying, you're doing projects, you're doing whatever. Boom, out the window, you know. Unless you're that one guy Max I knew. Every summer he was always doing like his own AP classes. He was like way ahead of the game. But that's a special circumstance. For the rest of us, summertime, you know, you get your bikes, just ride around, get into random ass trouble, right? But if that's the idea, and that's what we're kind of wired with, you know, now, shit, man. One day till June, or is tomorrow actually? I don't remember exactly how many months are in May, but either way, it's like shit, dude. It's summertime. Time to chill. Time to freaking hang out, and that's the end of it, you know. And sometimes the weights get put on the back burner. Not something I want to see, right? But you know, then it kind of makes me even look at it a little more like for real, you know, because we can idealize the situation. You know, I want everybody and their mom to, you know, have a solid ass leg day in their week, and you know, chest and back, and you know, be able to lift potentially double their body weight on some workouts or some you know, some movements and things like that. And then, I mean, just keep your bone density up. You know, that's one more thing. The dog that keeps running around and goes and walks and plays fetch is going to be doing much better in his later years than the one who's getting a few too many treats. You know what I'm talking about. I like that analogy a lot, though, because it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, let's be blunt. If somebody's got a fat dog, they know he shouldn't be eating so much food. He should get more activity. But when we look at ourselves, that ease of kind of understanding sometimes is thrown out the window. Yeah, there's a certain allure to real travels, and then you actually get to go see new gyms, new places. And maybe I should have clarified when I said you know, chest and back at Dino's gym. I guess I forgot there's two Dinos. Yeah, not Ramon. That's not exactly who I was talking about. Now I'm talking the UK Dino. But yeah, that's cool over there. But finally back to normal. What better lift to start than arms? And the reason I say that is twofold. One, it's just the lift that I have scheduled, because yesterday or 2 days ago was back, so now it's just, you know, arms turn in the rotation. But also, I would not probably would not love to do legs tonight, purely due to the fact that it would just be, well, I mean, the lift would be whatever, right? I'm going to bring it, but I'm probably not in my best state. Whereas if I get another good night's rest, you know, plus all the extra food and real meals, rather than just random, you know, stuff I was able to kind of scrounge around from traveling, it should be a much more, not enjoyable lift per se, but just I mean, really, there's no better word than just better, you know, because I'll be rested, fed, hydrated. I mean, simply just ready to go, you know. When it comes to the working out, I can say this 100%, right? Completely standing behind this. My goal, or anybody's goal, should be to minimize any detriments or drawbacks or just things that can negate the just enjoyment of your workouts, right? So how do you give a guy a better workout if he had 4 hours of sleep that night? Do you give him more pre? Do you give him more caffeine? Or do you just go back in time and give the guy some freaking sleep? You know, same thing with food. Do you give the underfed guy just, you know, there's new super creatine that'll start working, or do you just give him more food so that he's going to start growing? You know, when it comes to supplements, look, there's a time and place, of course, right? Usually every freaking day when it comes to pre and, you know, creatine and everything else. But that's not going to counteract your sleep or your hydration or anything else. You know, take all the freaking nitric oxide inducing pump ingredients you want. If you're dehydrated, your pump will suffer. You know, so all that's to say is, if I want to have a good workout, I know that if I'm rested, hydrated, and fed, guess what? I'm ready to throw some shit around. And it doesn't only play into that one lift of that like actual in the gym session, but it just feeds into your whole recovery process outside the gym too. You know, because if you kill it in the gym and you feel good doing it, for one, it's just going to make you go harder. Then you're going to come home with an actual sort of chore for your body to deal with, which is, you know, recovering, right? It's not a passive activity. Your body's actually doing some shit on the inside to, you know, rebuild, or just whatever you want to describe the process of hypertrophy as, so that you can come back again stronger, right? And it's just kind of an upward spiral, you know, because if you don't like it, then you're never going to really push it that hard, and then you're not giving yourself something to like drive progress at home, and then you're not gonna make gains, right? The harder you train, the more energy you're gonna burn, and not like calorie energy. I mean, like you're just building up this debt of like soreness, where now you got to eat food to recover. So, you know, what am I supposed to tell the guy who's like, dude, I'm not hungry? It's like, well, if you had a big ass leg workout, odds are you're just gonna come home hungry, you know? So I'm not saying it's always that case, right? I'm not saying it's so simple as just work out harder and then everything will fall into place. But it's not a bad start. It really isn't, you know, because it all just kind of feeds off into each other, right? Rest, or no, eat, lift, sleep. Right? I saw a bunch of guys with that shirt, even over in Italy, right? The basic gist of those three tenets are pretty standard. So if any of them are off, do your damn best to get them back on track, right? You're sitting on a stool with three legs. The training, the, you know, intake, be it calories or water, and the recovery. If any one of those things are off, you're just going to topple over, right? And have no fun, and look like a total fool in the process, which I don't think is an argument. No one wants to look a fool. I think we all agree there. But either way, plan for tonight with arms. Pump them up. Pump them up. That's as simple as like. I'm more concerned with what kind of lifter I can be rather than what kind of lifts I do. If you kind of follow my drift here, right? Because who's gonna get better gains? At the end of the day, that's what we're all talking about. Beyond the fact that just working out is fun, it's a good time period of your day to enjoy, and just an activity we all like. I mean, we're all kind of here for a reason. We want gains. You know, I don't think anybody started working out because they said to themselves, you know, I wish I just had like a 1 hour a day activity I could do and just kind of get to enjoy. Like that's not why we started doing this, right? It's because we were looking at guys who were way bigger than us and thinking, all right, this guy's onto something. This guy has been doing something. I think we got to copy him. Right? I think we got to take a couple pages out of his book and see what's going on, and pack some beef on it, you know, or a little bit of a kind of vendetta style. Somebody picked on you for being scrawny, that sort of thing. Doesn't matter what it was, right? But the goal was progress. So how I look at that is the primary kind of limiting factor to how hard and how consistent someone's going to be is just how they can handle, you know, feeling a little rough, you know? Because if you come into the gym and you're like, let's make it a leg day. All my buddies, nobody's doing legs. I don't want to do legs. You know what? I shouldn't have even come in today. I'm taking a rest day. Yeah, no. Insert a goddamn infinity gauntlet onto my hand right now. All of those people just turned to dust, right? And now now I can rest over. Yeah, right. So what I'm getting at is the guys who can kill it when they don't feel like it, for one thing, are going to keep killing it. And when they do feel like it, and they are feeling a little more excited, which honestly I'd say 95% of the time they will be, then they're going to kill it extra hard, right? But if you can be off-put and you're kind of, to put it a little more like high stakes, like if you can have your dreams completely snuffed out just because you weren't really feeling like it that day, it's going to make me call into question just how much you want it. You know, I'm not saying you in particular, but just like anyone, even myself, right? Those are kind of some of the things that I'll end up thinking, which will get me going if I'm not always on my game, right? So if I didn't get the best sleep or I'm traveling or whatever, I got you. Just take a rest day here, man. You know, it's like, do I want to be the guy who just skipped Do I want to be the guy who just freaking slacked? No. No. And it's kind of a weird, like, it's kind of a weird, like, pissing contest, because the coolness factor of doing things that are hard, I don't know what percentage, but a good portion of that, you know, sort of enjoyment is just knowing the fact that somebody else couldn't do it. So it's kind of like, you know, who can hit their head against a brick wall the hardest. But if you're not into the lifting, or if you know anybody who's not into it, then they wouldn't get it. Right, but we do. Frankly, given just, I mean, shit, what's the percentage? You know, who is really getting after it versus who couldn't really, you know, give two shits? Mind my language, but I mean, 90%, 95% of people couldn't care less. You know, so that puts us in the minority, and that is a cool spot to be in. But now I'm getting myself amped up for this chest day. They love saying this. It's like, oh, well, you know, you're not gonna look like that in 30 years, man. You're not gonna look like that when you're old. Like, all right, I'm not old now. I'm not gonna be this big forever, of course. But that's not the point. You know, the point's kind of enjoying it while it lasts, and that goes for everything. That's kind of a universal statement, if I say so my freaking self. All right, that's nice. And why I say that is because that's a real failure, in the sense that, I mean, I'm trying to move that shit again, and it's just not gonna friggin' happen. This is what I really hate to see. It's guys where they treat taking a set to failure, like they say it's like as though it's just getting a sip of water or tying your shoe. It's like, no, man, you know, because we're not so robotic as that, right? The throttle or the pedal in your mind to get yourself to really push something at maximum exertion, it's not so simple as just turning it on and off, right? So you really got to kind of dig deep. It's sort of it's as much of a mental as it is a physical thing. You know, nobody is going to become a better golfer if you never practice. Nobody is going to become a better rally car driver if they never practice, and they don't improve their skills. They don't actually, like, you know, push themselves to get better. So if your workouts are all the exact same intensity, the exact same, like, level of exertion, and you're just doing the same weights, the same everything over time, and you're not trying to bring it every lift, gains will become elusive. The 5 stages of plateauedness. The first one's the same. Denial. You know, gains kind of slowed down, not getting as big. You know, it's we'll see. I'll just break out and just keep doing what I'm doing. You know, not thinking like, okay, I got to change something about my training to keep breaking through. Just what I've been doing has worked. If I keep doing it, it'll just somehow work later. You know, I've got a whole set of keys in here. These keys are like my lift and my training. Eventually it'll open the door if I just keep trying enough of the same ones, right? That's you're like, it's like, oh, this thing's padlocked, and you keep entering the exact same 4-digit code, thinking that somehow if you do the same 1, 2, 3, 4 enter, it'll just open by doing the same thing. All right, so stage 1, denial. All right, stage 2, bargaining. I'm starting to think I'm just copying the real ones, but whatever. It's like, oh well, you know, it's I've been kind of busy, and somebody asks them, like, okay, well, you know, what's your training like? Have you been really hitting it every day? Have you been doing cardio? Like, well, yeah, it's right. It's the excuse stage, and then it turns into a little bit of a violent stage 3, where it's blaming. You know, it's like, oh, dude, well, you know, these it's because these guys get to spend more time on it, or these guys I don't know, I don't want to restrict my diet with my calories, or just like whatever. And it's very rare that people get to the stage of not acceptance, but I kind of mean just like a call to action to change their training, right? Because I've always been kind of like, I'll always think about it kind of mathematically in a way, right? So if your lift is like, or if your training is at this level and your calories are at this level and your consistency is at this level, then when you add all those things up together, it's going to equal the results that you get, right? So if somebody never works out, doesn't count their calories, not getting really good sleep, that equation equals 0 gains. If somebody works out pretty consistently, 4 times a week, they don't really worry about their sleep, they don't worry about their diet, like they just, you just want to train and then you don't worry about it, which is totally legit. Frankly, having a good gym routine on its own is a massive step forward from no physical activity, right? So I'm not trying to knock that. So if you're consistent, your gains will reflect that. You're going to have better results. And if you just increase all of those variables, the training intensity, the consistency, working on your diet a little bit, maybe focusing more on like, I don't even want to say whole foods, just have a good lifting diet, and what I mean by that is get your protein in, get enough carbs to actually like be in a good calorie intake to fuel your workouts and to fuel your recovery, and don't overdo it up or down. If you don't eat enough, you won't grow. If you eat too much, you're going to start gaining body fat at a continuous rate, which none of us want to do, right? It's all about that sweet spot in between of getting gains, not getting too soft.